Today is a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible day, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a Sweden Day, but not just a Sweden Day, but a Sweden cultural day. Sweden is not a utopia. The one thing no one talks about. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
This video is sponsored by my favorite website creator, Squarespace, the best place to go when you want to get a domain or create a beautiful website or an online store. I think most people, when they think of Sweden, and especially Sweden's politics and culture, picture, extremely high taxes, a socialist background, very feminist, etc. And that's not wrong at all, but what is so mind-boggling to me is that those things, high taxes, socialism, feminism, will to many people sound like a threat to freedom. That those things limit the individual's sense of freedom when it's in fact so completely the other way around, because those things in reality are the prerequisite for a person's sense of freedom. Take it from me, someone who's actually born and raised in Sweden. I understand that you might now be confused and skeptical, so let me try to explain what I mean, because I feel like no one ever talks about this and it makes me a little bit stressed out. Let's start with the taxes, because I feel like this is where most people start to dislike socialism. Sweden has one of the highest tax rates in the world, which might sound like the opposite of freedom, like the state taking a sizable chunk of your income every month. But honestly, let's look at what the effect of that tax rate is in reality for the...
It's true, because taxes, if you think about it, hello guys, sorry, I feel like I didn't speak that much at the beginning. Taxes, you would think would repel people, especially people that want to do business and work and stuff. You think, oh, that would push people out of Sweden and they would go elsewhere to other countries where the tax rate's lower. But it doesn't seem like that's really happening in Sweden. It seems like people want to live in Sweden because their taxes, your taxes, are going towards tangible things that you can see and you benefit from. You can see where your taxes are going, you can see where that benefit is coming from, and you trust your government with your taxes. That's what I get from it, because there's no way that could work at the moment in the UK, or especially in America. Like, high taxes would surely push the people out. People wouldn't want to be taxed like that. It's just that you guys have a historical standing of using your taxes in a good way, so...
average Swede.
Well done.
And not least what it has meant personally for me. Okay, so Sweden spends more than 25% of GDP on social welfare, which is again one of the very highest in the world. Because of this, Sweden has free healthcare, generous parental leave, free schools and universities, pensions, unemployment support, great infrastructure, etc., etc.
Do you know what I mean? Free healthcare, we also have that. However, you have very generous parental leave. Your free schools. You have free schools. Free universities. I still have debt from my going to university, doing a degree or starting a degree. I didn't finish my degree, by the way, guys. I didn't finish it, but I've got all this debt. Pensions, unemployment and support. You just got you can see where your tax is going, and that's the difference.
So the quality of your education is not determined by how much money your parents make or where in the country you live.
Yeah.
Schools are just as good, the same everywhere. And the minimum wage is set by the trade unions and is also high compared to most countries. So if you work in a supermarket, you will make a decent salary. Almost no one has a second or third job in Sweden, and you don't rely on tips to pay rent. There is a minimum 5 weeks of paid vacation by law, but many employers will offer more than 5 weeks even. And the average Swede works about 1,440 hours per year, compared to the UK's 1,650, or Japan's 1,700, or the US 1,800 hours.
Wow, look at the difference. We work more hours than you do, but look at America, Jesus.
Hours per year. And let's look at raising children. In Sweden, you have 480 days of paid parental leave to split between the parents. 90 days are reserved for each parent, and the remaining 300 days can be split as the parents please.
Wow.
Or if you're a single parent household, you of course get the full 480 days for one parent. The reason why 90 days is reserved to each parent is to encourage fathers to stay home at least 3 months, but often longer, for the sake of gender equality.
That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. So if the mum wants to go back to work, if the woman wants to go back to work, or not even just the woman, if the other partner, whoever's the partner is, whether it's two men or it's two women, one of you can go back to work if you want to go back to work. You share that responsibility out between the two of you. That's phenomenal. We don't have that in the UK.
Employers often blame the gender pay gap on mothers staying home with children, but if society is built on both parents staying home, this excuse for lower wages for women loses its bite. Then childcare. Here in the UK, childcare is extortionate, with nursery rates landing around sort of £12,400 per year.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons that I hear why people are reluctant to have children is because it means such extreme sacrifices for your career and your personal finances. Since most people frankly can't afford to send their children to daycare, especially if living in London, which has such massive living cost as it is.
Expensive.
So if you have a child, one parent is often forced to stay home until the child starts school. If you have more than one child, then of course it could mean, pausing your career for 5, 8, 10 years.
Yep.
In Sweden, nursery rates aren't fixed, but based on your income. So for your first child, it costs about £137 per month, or at the most, 3% of your gross income. For the second child, the most 2% of your income, and the third child, 1% of your income. So at the most, you will pay for your first child £1,664 per year, compared to the UK's 12,400 or so.
That's crazy. Look at the price. I'm glad she lives in the UK, so you guys can understand. You guys can understand the difference between your country and mine. 1,664 versus £12,400.
But for low-income households, it will be even less than that. This is to ensure that parents can afford childcare to promote gender equality in the workplace, with both parents being able to work, and to make sure that low-income families will more easily be able to afford having children in the first place. Also, knowing that your child will go on to a good free school and free university later on means it's less of a financial precarity to have children and not having to worry about being able to afford a good life for them. If you want higher education in Sweden, you can just go out and get it. Not only that, but you actually get paid to study in Sweden. Besides from taking a student loan if you want to, you'll get a non-repayable student grant of about £315 a month. That's just for free, for you showing up and cracking.
Here you go, here's £300 a month just for attending. You get paid to go to university. That's your food. £315 a month. You could survive on that. You could probably survive on that eating. Obviously you're not gonna be able to go out and do other things, but food, that's your food. Oh my gosh. Sweden. You look after your people, that's what I mean. We don't look after our people in the UK at all.
Books. So all this means that I've grown up to love paying taxes. I don't come from money. No way would my parents have been able to afford nursery, a great school, a university education, and all the healthcare that I've had over the years without the rest of the Swedish population doing their bit by paying their taxes. I'm not saying everything was perfect growing up in Sweden. Of course not. It's not a utopia. There are problems in Sweden just as everywhere else. But growing up, I felt three things. Firstly, I felt safe, knowing if I break an arm, it wouldn't break my parents' bank, and knowing that if I happened to be unemployed for a bit, I would get benefits to tide me over. Luckily, I've never been unemployed, but just knowing there is help to get if worst comes to worst is a great stress release. Secondly, I've lived in the very strange world of never having to choose my education or future career based on income prospects. Now, after living in a more capitalist and wealth-gappy society here in London for a decade, I find this so strange to think back on, knowing that whichever career I happen to choose back in Sweden, there will be a decent minimum wage and at least 5 weeks paid vacation each year by law. It has made me not factor in money when choosing education.
Yeah.
Basically, the wealth gap is so tiny compared to other countries that both David and I felt free to choose education based on passion instead of future salary, which is why I studied biology and David studied film production. I mean, my God, no one can accuse us of being financially greedy.
There you go. You can choose a career based on passion rather than career prospects. In the UK, no. If you study something like film production, which a lot of us have, I actually went to college and studied media and did radio as one of my years. And then when I went to university, I studied music. And yeah, would I have done that looking back? No, I probably would have chosen a career that makes more money. Why? Because those careers, you don't make minimum wage a lot of the times in those careers in this country. Whereas in your country, everyone has to be paid a base level of a decent living wage. And that's just the difference. So you're very lucky. Like you've got a lot to be proud of about your country, you know?
Thirdly, another thing that this societal structure has meant for me personally is that growing up in a relatively speaking feminist country, with both parents taking parental leave, with both parents sharing household chores and childcare duties, and both parents caring about their work and careers, it has meant that I've never really considered myself female in terms of work or household. It has never even crossed my mind that there are certain careers that would be off limits for me as a woman, or that there are certain behaviors that I need to showcase to be considered sufficiently feminine. Of course there is sexism in Sweden too, obviously there is, but to such a much lesser degree that moving to London was a shock. Again, choosing career and education, choosing whether to have children or not, and my behaviors in my relationship with David, it has nothing to do with gender. Basically, me personally, I have, as a woman coming from a low-income family, felt the freedom and the ability to do just whatever the hell I want with my life. I have not felt kept back by my financial background or my gender once. And I've felt that, I, just as much as a kid from a high-income family, have the right to more or less the exact same quality childhood and future career. Okay, not in terms of expensive sneakers or yearly holidays abroad, but I mean the more important things: financial security, free healthcare and education, the ability to educate myself and build a career of my choice. This is...
So it sounds like she lives in London. Why does she live in London then? Like, you should live in Sweden. But I can't say you shouldn't live somewhere else if you want to live somewhere else. As much as she's saying all this stuff about the UK, and it's true, and London is a bit of a magical place. I don't know if you've ever been. It kind of is. It's such a melting pot of people. Yeah, it's hard to explain. It has a lot of flaws, but people want to live there. So that's probably why she's there.
Freedom. Having a bit more money left of your salary after paying taxes, with the result of having none of all the things that I've listed safeguarded for all kids, no matter their background. That's not a free society. A free society does what it can to make sure everyone has the possibility to live the life that they choose, no matter your gender, ethnic background, sexuality, or financial background. And again, it's not like Sweden is perfect with all this, but in comparison. This is what we need to strive for, a society of equality and low wealth gaps, where as many people as possible fit into the middle class. We don't need an upper class, we need high minimum wage, fair benefit systems, and an overall stress reduction from people not having to worry about money and about healthcare or about education. Well,
I can't disagree with anything she's saying. I agree as well. I think society would benefit from having everyone be middle class. There's no reason in the Western world that we shouldn't all be middle class. We are rich nations. We are very wealthy nations we have enough money to not like divide amongst everybody, but everyone should be able to have a decent quality of living. No one should be on the breadline. No one should be in poverty. In the UK, we have a lot of people in poverty because we're very capitalistic. There is a defined class system. Unlike Sweden, we have people who are working class on the bottom, scraping for money, and you do have a defined middle class, and then you have an upper class. The class system in this country is really bad, and it's so ingrained that I don't think it will ever be dismantled. It's part of our culture. we have a royal family. So do you, but not just a royal family, but we also have like the aristocrats and the wealthy individuals that are in the upper class as well. It's very defined in the UK. If you come to the UK, you'll see it's very defined. You know, it's bad.
Don't need is a corrupt upper class thinking that they're above the law, and an impoverished lower class that feel that they have so little control over their future that they lose hope. That's a recipe for disaster for any country. We need people who go to work, pay their taxes, and have long, lovely paid vacation to spend with their families. Freedom is not making sure billionaires stay billionaires. Who needs a billionaire? What has a billionaire ever done for you? But okay, I hear what some of you are saying about taxes now, that not all taxes are created equal. Paying taxes in a war-hungry country with a huge military is of course not as thrilling as paying taxes in a country that spends it on childcare and free universities. Also, another reason this has worked as well as it has in Sweden is because there is very little corruption. I think it's the 5th lowest in the world. So for any society to work, we need to create a feeling of trust and goodwill. Basically trusting in the system, in the state, in the government, which isn't easy to do in a... Basically trust...
Sweden's 5th. Who's above you? Denmark, Finland, Singapore. Norway's above you slightly. It's really good.
In the system, in the state, in the government, which isn't easy to do in a country where people have historically been so screwed over by their leaders. This is why I think there should be a strict cap on how much politicians can make. Basically, not a minimum wage, but a maximum wage. And any type of money in politics in forms of donations or funding should be illegal. Money in politics...
Well, we have that in the UK. It sounds like she's preaching. I don't know if she's preaching because she lives in the UK and she thinks that this is the issue in the UK. I'm not too sure, but we do have a cap on... You can't earn huge amounts of money as a politician in the UK. We don't have that issue.
They do not mix. Anyway, I made a video last year about this fascinating subject, namely the level of trust in different countries and what effect this has on the feeling of the population, as well as how well functioning a society is. So I'll leave a link for you if you're curious. So now I'm wondering, are you with me on this? That freedom must surely mean the maximum amount of freedom for the whole population, not an extreme amount of freedom for the 1%. The 1% are spending huge amounts of money and effort on trying to persuade us otherwise. That is not the wealth gap that's the problem, but the immigrants, or the lack of religion, or trans people for some goddamn reason. It's not the trans people's fault that the US doesn't have free universities.
Preach. Preach. I like this woman. It's just, I can't, you know, normally I would like be disagreeing or trying to like debate her, but I'm just letting her cook. Because clearly, I agree with everything she's saying.
It's not the immigrants saying that minimum wages should be low or childcare costs should be extortionate in the UK. Close the wealth gap and there's enough money to go around, which is again a reason why money and politics should never be allowed to socialize in a democracy. Anyway, these were my 2 pence as usual, and yes, Sweden is great in so many ways, but hey, I've still chosen to live in London for the last decade, because even though Sweden's politics are so much better than the UK's, there are other ways in which Stockholm could never touch London. London is the most thrilling, most handsome city imaginable. I just wish that its politics were saner. But
so I mean, that's what I said to you guys. London is quite a magical city. I love Stockholm, but London is a different sort of city. It's a mega city. It's huge. It's just different. But arguably, I'd say politics and way of life and the people and culture is more important than things you can do in a city, right? So I would much rather live in Sweden than live here. Your country, for me, is better.
What about your city? Do you recognize your country in how I describe Sweden, or is it the opposite? I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. I know some of it might be a bit controversial sounding, that, you know, socialism promotes freedom. It's not something that you hear every day, but it's true. What can I say? I felt like completely free to do what I wanted with my life growing up. So even though I grew up without much money, I feel like I've had such a lucky, privileged upbringing, something that I wish for everyone.
And probably what she didn't actually realize that's what she had when she had it. And then when she moved to the UK, she probably realized, oh my God, growing up, I had a lot of access to things to be able to move up in life. So it's probably that reality check. of realizing actually Sweden actually did offer a lot for my family who were from a working class background, or a lower income background, I should say. See, I even said working class because in the UK, that's how we define class. We have a very classist system, very capitalistic system as well. Yeah, but I agree, something that's more towards a socialist system where everyone has the same opportunity and access to education, to housing, to just having the same opportunities in life as everyone else, I think is so important. You should be measured by your merit. You should be measured by your contents of your character, not your skin color or your sexuality or anything else. It should be, are you a good person? Do you work hard? You should be able to get the same start in life, I think. But in the UK, that's not the case.
Do you want to create a stunning website or launch your own blog?
I think that's it. She's promoting Squarespace now. Guys, what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Do you agree with what she said? Obviously, you live in Sweden, and maybe living in Sweden, you might not realize that you have all of this amazing stuff and amazing opportunities in your country, because we don't think about it when we're in our country. It's only when you move out of your country. When I moved to Thailand, I realized how amazing the UK is in terms of equality and in terms of opportunity, because in Thailand it's even more like capitalistic. It's even more like, if you don't work hard, if you don't have, if you're just unlucky in life and you're in poverty, you're more than likely going to stay in poverty your entire life, because there's not much social mobility. And I realized, wow, in the UK actually there's a lot more social mobility than there is in Thailand. So I realized I was quite privileged growing up. But you don't realize it until you move to another country that's worse off. Like, she's moved to London and she's like, oh my God, I had a lot. So let me know in the comment section if you realize how amazing your country is. Do you agree, or do you think, actually no, I'd rather live in a more capitalistic country where everything isn't free and my taxes are not so high, and I can, because some people do think that, like, they don't want their taxes to be so high, they want to pay less taxes, and for, they want that divide, they want the people that work harder to earn more money, and the people that maybe don't work harder or are more disadvantaged to stay, it sounds bad, to stay disadvantaged. Some people like that capitalistic kind of view. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below, because there probably are some Swedes that probably would rather move to America and work in that system and really make it, Let me know in the comment section. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I will see you very soon.